This is Justin Llewellyn
and Eddie Williams,
and we're coming to you as a retrospective for the Friday the 13th films. Now, for those of you, if you wanted to check out some of our other retrospectives, we also did Halloween Parts 1 and 2 that you can find on SoundCloud and on YouTube. And so now we're going to be talking about one of our favorite slasher films, which is the Friday the 13th franchise.
Yep.
Now, a little back history. With the Friday the 13th films that were coming out, before they were coming out, we had just got off the success of the Halloween franchise, or Halloween 1, which came out in 78, which made the mainstream crowd, which made the slasher genre become more mainstream.
Yep.
And then when Friday the 13th came around, this is where you can say is the boom of slashers.
So here we go. We got Friday the 13th Part 1. It came out in 1980. Yeah. 1980, and basically this film was considered a standalone that they didn't expect it to go anywhere. It was going to be a standalone film, which hence the mother, Jason, we see in this film. It was not going to lead anywhere other than this film.
Yeah, it was developed by Sean Cunningham as pretty much a way of capitalizing Halloween, where you have a bunch of teenagers or a bunch of camp counselors who are getting picked off one by one by an unseen killer. Yep. Which, from to this day, I can say that the first Friday the 13th movie it still holds up.
It still holds up. I think it's a good 1980s slasher film. And they've actually rendered it very well throughout the years. They've added 10 times more gore, more effects in the film. I've seen some updated versions. But the movie overall does still hold up to this day. And I do enjoy, which we'll get later on in the other.
So anyway, we have, with the first film, like you were saying, the way that it captures the killer picking off the counselors one by one, and the fact that you're seeing a lot of the deaths like on screen and everything, it was pretty brutal for seeing that kind of slasher, or seeing those kind of kills for a slash film, like in one of the earliest movies. And what I love too is, like you said, it's cool seeing Kevin Bacon in an earlier role.
Yes,
especially when he has a death scene where he gets picked off by that what was it, a pole or something? No, not a pole.
No, he had an arrow stuck through his throat. Which if you get the there's theoretical and there's extended to where they actually go more detail with the scene where he's actually choking and there's more blood. But anyways, this film also did Friday the 13th, the first one, also did something pretty cool. We had other slashers, like he said, Halloween being the debut. We actually had something before that didn't get debut. It just grew on to people later on. We had Leatherface.
We had Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Psycho.
So we have these films what they did that Friday the 13th did pretty cool, that Friday the 13th didn't copy off, is those three films show us the killer. This Friday the 13th tried a killer off screen.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Psycho did that. Where you see
Psycho kind of did that.
As far as upping the body counts and the gore, they did that with Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And so, with the first Friday the 13th, you have a set of counselors going to have fun and at Camp Crystal Lake, and they realize that there's a legend that goes around about a boy named Jason Voorhees who died when he was young.
He drowned. And it was all due to negligence of the counselors from years prior who were having sex and ignore his screams as he was drowning.
Yeah, and you also have the legend that goes around that supposedly there's still... Okay, never mind. Okay. And you have... pretty much as the story progresses, you're starting to see these counselors getting killed off one by one by unseen killer, and this killer is killing them in very brutal ways. And for a movie like this, it really captures a lot of the 80s pretty well, because you can tell by the hair, the way that they play the music, everything.
And I think even the slasher overall.
Well, and you also have one of my favorite characters is the crazy old man, Crazy Ralph, where he's like, "You're all doomed."
Yeah, you're all doomed. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, pretty much as it goes along, the counselors get killed off one by one until one last survivor, Alice, is still alive, who discovers that, lo and behold, that the killer...
Well, basically, getting offered help. She ends up getting offered help. And when she does, she sees somebody pull up, and it ends up being Pamela. Voorhees, which is played by
Betsy Palmer.
Betsy Palmer. We lost her sadly last year.
Yeah, rest in peace.
But anyways, we end up finding out that that's Jason's mother, and she's wreaking havoc on Revenge, going crazy on any counselor that passes her, goes through her path, because she can't let go of what counselors did to let her son drown.
Yeah, and she wants pretty much still revenge on all the ones that fucked with their son, which I can see that,
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the biggest twist in the film, and as it goes along, but what's really interesting about Betsy Palmer's role is that she carries the way that her performance is. Yeah. She comes across as like very nice all of a sudden.
Yeah, I do like that because she's actually playing a psychotic. You can see her psychotic side. She's like a schizo. She's half and half. She's so nice and a loving mother and a loving person, but then when you realize she's Jason's mother, she plays like this psycho. Look what you did to him, even though they didn't have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
They're just counselors. They're just at the same lake in the same camp that happened to where her son drowned 20 years prior.
Yeah.
And she just goes pretty, psycho, and it's like, whoa,
And she's starting to. Well, you can tell that she's also psychotic because she's like here saying, "Kill her, mommy, kill her, mommy." She's doing the ha thing.
Yep.
And so basically, what happens is
Alice
survives. That she decapitates Mrs. Voorhees, and pretty much evil's punished. Now, the one thing that I will say that really creeped me out when I was little watching this was when I was really young and I used to watch the first one. That ending where
she's playing in the canoe, and then Jason comes over out of the water and pulls her in the lake, and then she goes, "It's the boy in the lake," and they're like, "There's no boy," and he's still there, and then the film ends, which, be surprised, that was actually supposed to be it. It was going to be an ambiguous ending, and then never going anywhere else.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a standalone movie.
Standalone film,
but in a little trivia note that for behind the scenes, we also had Tom Savini do the effects for the first film, which is really cool because you can tell that for future films that he did later, like in From Dusk Till Dawn and stuff, you can tell it's his effects. I'm going to give a 8 out of 10. It's got some problems here and there because some of the characters are really just kind of forgettable. Yeah. It's your typical slasher.
I'm going to go and give it a 8 out of 10. But it's doable. It still holds up to this day. I love owning it. Yeah. It's got a beautiful cover, too.
Yeah, and so...
anyways.
So now we get to Friday the 13th Part 2, which literally picks up I think probably a year later after the first one.
Yeah, it was 1 year later.
Okay, exactly. So it's 1 year later now. We have Alice, who's the only survivor from the first one.
She's living in another town. It's the only time we ever... Well, until later films, that Jason actually traveled in this one.
Yeah.
She's not even in... the cabin. She's in the town far away.
Yeah, and so the movie opens literally with our main hero from the first movie being killed off with being stabbed by a screwdriver by Jason.
And they're kind of trying to pull off the ambiguous where you don't know who the killer is again, so they start doing that for a while.
They do, this film. Because we don't know who it is until later in the movie. Yeah. So anyway, our killer kills Alice, and then we cut to another group of counselors that go to Crystal Lake again.
Well, the thing you left out here, which is pretty cool, is they actually, when she opens the fridge, Pamela Voorhees' head's in her fridge.
Yeah, that's right. I remember, where she opens it and you see her decapitated head inside.
Yeah, to remember. So you kind of know it's going to be Jason, but it still stays faithful with the first one, with not want to show much of him, really.
Yeah.
Until later on in the film.
And then, after that, we have a new group of camp counselors that are going to Camp Crystal Lake, and the only one that comes back from the first one, other than Alice, is Crazy Ralph, where he comes up to the new group. He's like, "I warned the others, but they didn't believe me."
Yes,
I love that guy.
Yeah, I do love that guy. So basically, we're back at this again. It's kind of really hard to talk about this. It's really the same stuff again.
With the first one.
Camp counselors getting killed off one by one.
But they do have some cool kills.
I will say the kills in this one, I do love. And, like the part where the guy in the wheelchair, like right in the fucking face, dude. Like, unlike the first one, other than Kevin Bacon, really a lot of the kills were kind of offsetting. They didn't really want to show a lot. It was kind of really not so gory.
It was a little teen, but it was still gory. It's just, you don't... There were some that were kind of aftermath, other than probably like...
This one did a little bit more better with the adding more deaths, more counselors, and more slashing and more blood in this film, and more pain.
Yeah.
Like the guy with the wheelchair takes it right through the fucking face. He's sitting there screaming.
Yeah.
In pain.
Well, and you also have, say... another kill, which was Crazy Ralph, when he gets his
he gets strangled.
He gets like that. What was it?
It was kind of like a string, and he was strung.
He was strung on the tree.
Yeah, he was getting hung.
Pretty brutal.
Yeah. And so, we lose Ralph in this one. Yep.
And as it's obvious, of course, this one in part 2 we get introduced to Jason wearing a sack over his face,
and this is our first ever, which we would never know in the future that was going to lead to a much bigger franchise.
Yeah.
An iconic slasher. So we get Jason, which, by the way, part 2 was considered, again, to be a standalone, end it all. Okay, we did 2, we're not going to do any more after this.
Guess what? It made that money.
Yep.
And so now...
So what do you think?
Well, another thing you left out was when they get to the end where you see Pamela Voorhees' head, I remember always seeing that box cover.
I love the score.
I remember always going to Blockbuster when I was younger and seeing it on the back of the box cover and seeing her head on there and on the back of the box cover.
Yeah, I did like that. I did like seeing that, and then like how she has to break the last of. We get 2 survivors in this one instead of 1, but the girl Jenny. She actually is trying to convince Jason, "I'm your mother," and
wearing a sweater and everything.
Wearing Mommy's done. It's all over now, Jason.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool. That was pretty creepy.
But the only thing I do have a problem with, though, in the second one is there's a weird, kind of continuity, because in this one, they show that Jason looks like he's been there for, a long time.
Yeah.
And he looks kind of...
Alright, so basically...
He looks like a hermit.
Okay. Well, yeah, he does. I don't know... They kind of made him he kind of reminded me of the lumberjack dude.
Yeah.
He was wearing a lumberjack thing. Well, and he had a big old fucking beard and everything. So.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but it just seemed like the way that they showed Jason, they had that weird. Well, no, it was a creepy the creepy ending where he jumps in the window and he attacks her.
And you see his eyes all down here sloth.
Yeah.
So
I do like that.
I did like that. I do like how they added. I actually really like against the first one. I like 2 better. I did like they added more counselors, more people, more diversity. It's you get to learn a bigger group.
Yeah.
And you get more deaths out of it. And these were really likable actors. I like 2 a lot better than 1.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the second one more than 1, but there are a couple of counselors that did kind of annoy me. Like the weird dude that's trying to act like an Indian in one part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude kind of
I guess he's trying to be the comic relief of the film.
Yeah, I mean, which is notable in a slasher film, but, it just wasn't, I had a problem with that.
Yeah. But overall, this is another 8 out of 10 for me in this film.
It's a 7.75 for me.
Okay.
But it's a little step below this. It's good. It's good. It's good as the first one, but
it's also the same level, kind of.
Same level.
So, like I did with the first one, I gave it an 8 out of 10. The second one, I'm gonna go 8 out of 10 on this one. Same thing with me. Yeah. So now we lead to this one being the famous one right here. This is what leads us into the hockey mask.
Friday the 13th, Part 3 in 3D.
3D.
Now, before we go on to this is a big deal for this film, because this is the film that came out in 1982, I think it was 83. 83,
yeah.
Where it was the whole 3D craze where you had Jaws 3D, Amityville 3D.
Which would be the very first slasher in 3D.
Exactly. And Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D, where they were bringing back the 3D craze by putting a lot of these films in the theater.
Yeah.
And so you have this one that came out, and the way, from what I've been hearing, is that for people that got to check out the 3D version in the theaters, really liked the 3D a lot. It's a gimmick back when it came out, but the 3D, from what I heard, was a lot better when you saw it in the theater.
So, if you've ever checked this film out, you see there's a lot of shots, like the guy going up to the screen with the eyeball, the squishing the head with the eyeball popping out, the throwing some, like the screwdriver, the yo-yo. These are all, check it out in 3D. You know, you can get some fun out of it.
Yeah. So anyway, we have this one, which is...
This actually leads the next day. This is instead of a year.
So technically speaking, you could call this Saturday the 14th.
Which, people start laughing and say, what is it, Saturday 14th? Well, anyways, we actually lead the next day. We lead into an actual grocery store. The guy looks like Cheech. He always reminds me of Cheech.
Yeah.
And his wife, and they're actually watching on the news the events that unfolded in part 2. You know, the bodies are finding down the street, you know, and all that stuff. And basically, we kind of really don't see Jason much his face because he doesn't pick up the mask till later in the film.
Yeah.
But for the starts, you know, you don't really see him really, and
pretty much, basically the story goes, he
kills them off, and then
you get another group of counselors, which this time I like these characters a lot because for one, I can see these characters are actually very relatable, especially the main guy, not the main guy. I'm sorry, one of the kind of the chubby kind of guy, Shelley.
Yeah. Shelley. I will say this: the characters that they bring in, the counselors in this one, has more chemistry, and they're actually likable. I actually enjoyed the actors that they put and actresses they put in this film, and they actually toned down from what they did in the second one, because the second one they put a lot of people in.
Yeah.
A lot of counselors.
And
they went back to toning it down in this one.
Well, not to go back to that, but I did notice in part 2, the fact that they crammed in too many counselors. Yeah. Some of them, because remember the scene in the bar in the second one? Most of them weren't even involved with the main action.
Mess it up in this one. Part 3 is actually not counselors. These are just people camping.
Well, yeah, people going to just camp.
So we actually get rid of the counselor genre for temporarily in this one.
Yeah.
We're actually getting just campers in this one.
Yeah, so we get introduced to these group of people that are traveling in their hippie van, which because they go.
This is around the Cheech and Chong type shit right here.
Yeah.
Because they do a lot of references with smoking weed. You got a guy that looks like Chong. The guy at the beginning of the film, if you don't pay attention to this. The guy at the beginning of the film that owns the market when the movie first starts, that guy actually looks and has Cheech's outfit on. And he actually looks like Cheech. The guy who travels later with the group that's going to stay at that looks like Chong.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, so it's referencing weed smoking, Cheech and Chong. So this film's kind of fun with the whole weed smoking.
Yeah, and so we pretty much have a new group of... Well, when these characters get to the camp, there's also another continuity that they do that I do have a problem with, is that... you have a flashback that shows one of the main characters with Jason, which
with
makes
this girl.
No fucking sense.
It makes no fucking sense. Basically, alright, we got history. This is the controversy problem I do have with the film. So we have like you said, it's the girl who had supposedly been getting raped by Jason. Why did Jason just want to rape and not kill in this girl? Why all of a sudden he doesn't want to kill the girl?
Doesn't make sense.
And
this
the
flashback,
fact he's bald, but yet in part 2, this is supposedly happened before 2. And 2, he's got long lumberjack fucking hair.
Yeah.
It's like, what, does this guy stop at a fucking barbershop and get his hair cut?
Well, that doesn't make sense either, because for one, in 3's continuity, it's supposed to take place after 2. In that flashback, it's supposed to be a year before the second movie. I'm like,
that's what I'm saying. The look is totally obsolete because you have fucking Jason look like lumberjack. Not to mention the actor who played him in part 2 is a lot smaller than the guy who played him in part 3. So Jason decided to take some Flintstone vitamins in this one. Not to mention the guy went to a barber shop and got his fucking hair cut. And then he grew his fucking hair. And then he cut it again?
Yeah.
So I will say that if the whole rape scene could have just been cut out. It really didn't need to be in there. There shouldn't be no history with this girl. You were better off leaving it as a just standalone, just slasher. The whole her being raped. And what tell me why Jason wants her pussy and not kill her?
Yeah.
I mean, why would all of a sudden we get Jason killing? Never once should we have a reference that instead of killing, he was beating on her and smacking her around, but she references he wanted to fuck her.
That's fucking out of
So
nowhere.
that really was bothersome. Thank God that's actually just a small portion of the movie to talk about that.
So anyway, as far as part 3 goes, we also get introduced to these other... This is probably my favorite part. You get introduced to like this this biker gang.
Biker gang.
I love these guys.
These guys, they were pretty cool, and they were pretty killed off pretty fast. But they're enjoyable.
I like that part where the dude is like, they go where Shelley and the other girl go in the store, and they're fucking with their bikes.
Which is funny, because you know what, for the many years I always thought, Shelley, I love Shelley. In fact, Shelley still follows the genre to this day. He actually showed up to the meeting of the video game. He's asking for his character to be put in the video game. So Shelley's a pretty cool guy. And, you know, he's a dork. He's a guy who likes movies. He likes masks. He's a dork. He's fat. He doesn't get no girls. The dude's a likable guy. He seems like a really nice, cool guy.
Yeah.
What's funny is, over the years, I always thought he was the same guy, because they actually have a guy that looks just like him in Jaws 2.
Oh, really?
I thought that was the same dude. For the longest time, it wasn't. But I was like, damn, that looks like that fat dude from Jaws 2. That's on one of those rafts.
Yeah, but...
Go back to Jaws 2, you'll see who I'm talking about.
But yeah, you got that scene where they're at the store, and they're fucking with that biker gang, and there's that part where they're in the car. And
he's trying to impress the girl.
He's trying to impress the girl, yeah, and he's in the car, and then he's like, he smiles at her.
He does a Pee Wee Herman knocking all our bikes down. He's like, he's like, uh-oh. He's like, and he busts that dude's window out.
But at first, he does a sound like, yeah.
That black dude was pretty funny.
Yeah, but I also like the part where they're in the barn, and he's actually trying to go hand in hand with Jason. It's like, all right, motherfucker. Right.
So he ends up, that's where they're, well, basically, the biker gang, after getting their bikes crushed and then Shelley driving off, they find out where they're camping at, and they try to steal his gas. They find the barn, which later becomes a very iconic thing that will be put in later films. More, remember the remake?
Yeah.
Yeah, in 2009. But, anyways, and that's where we lose all the bikers and all that. So we go back to the group again.
Yeah, and then when we get back to the group again, we are also seeing, like, I'm trying to remember.
Basically, you could thank Shelley for this. Jason ends up finding Shelley's mask.
Yeah, which actually, if you were to see this movie in 1983, this is the first time you actually would have seen his iconic look, and not even know that's supposed to be his iconic look, because it builds the suspense up where you're thinking it's going to be Shelley just because throughout the film, Shelley's been known for doing pranks on people and trying to fake his death and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so there's a scene where a girl is swimming.
That was a cool fucking scene.
Yeah,
because actually it was a 3D shot of a spear coming out.
There's a scene
and it was graphic when it went in her fucking eye. She's like, oh.
Yeah,
dude. Some of the grunts in that film were pretty fucking chilly, man.
And when he shoots her in the eye, you can tell that's going to be the first time you see Jason with that mask, and he'll have it for the rest of the series.
Yeah.
And so we get that, and we also get some other deaths which are cool, like
we get that 3, which was really gruesome right here, where Jason fucking chomps out that dude,
where he's walking upside down.
We have a dude that pretty much is like a circus freak in this fucking film. He reminds me of the dude from Man in the House, the dude's dad, where he's all doing circus shit. This dude likes to do this upside down shit. Comes around the corner, Jason's standing there. Jason, I don't know if he was holding a machete or it was just his hands. I can't remember, but he just goes down. His dude just fucking explodes like in half. I'm like, whoa, fuck! And if you don't pay attention in this film, that next scene where he actually goes through the hammock, killing that girl through the throat with a machete, and the girl's just like, ah! Like, it goes into detail. They actually spread out the death scenes.
Yeah.
Where Jason's actually killing in this, and this film did really good on that. They actually go detail in this. Like, when the girl's going through, they don't just kill her and she goes, oh, and I'm dead. They actually show the scene where it's going through her throat, she's screaming, ah! Oh, dude, it's gory as fuck.
It is.
And she sees, the blood dripping from the guy he split in the previous scene. Well, that girl was actually pregnant.
Oh, yeah, I remember that now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I rember. That's kind of really...
Jason killed a pregnant woman.
Yeah, that's pretty... That's pretty brutal right there.
She was actually supposed to giving birth whenever they go back. Mm. Yeah, and he stabs her through the throat. And in one of my favorite scenes is you actually believe the dude's going to be kind of part 2 where you think that it's going to be like part 2 where the girl and the guy lives, and you think this guy, you kind of see him kind of like a Superman guy, kind of like Christopher Reeves. ironically, you think he's going to end up surviving. Jason, one of my favorite deaths, he crushes the dude's skull and his eyeballs come out.
Yeah, which I saw in 3D, and that was like some really cool shit right there.
Yeah.
And so, basically, Jason
we get to the iconic battle scene in the barn.
Yeah, we get the battle between him and the girl who have history, which is good because it does raise the stakes higher. Because I do like the fact that they have history together, but it does raise issues. But anyway, Jason basically gets hung, and we're led to believe this is the last one.
Yeah.
So,
what's your grade on this film?
I'm gonna give it actually a 8.5 because I can say I liked it a lot better than 1 and 2 because for one
we get the iconic look,
we get the 3D. Which for those of you who have seeked out a good copy of the movie on 3D, definitely watch that version because I've watched the shitty one we have with the fucking blue and red glasses. Hard to watch.
Yeah. I'm gonna actually, I do like it better than 1 and 2, but I'm still gonna stick with, again, an 8 out of 10.
Fair enough.
Okay. Now we get to Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter, which is considered supposed to be the end of the franchise.
As the title suggests.
And we'll get to that later.
So we have Jason pretty much coming...
And we get the opening of Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah. So we get Jason being... going off to the morgue.
And this is still another day later.
It's
continuation.
So
2, 3, and 4.
You could call it Sunday the 15th.
Now it's Sunday, yeah. So it's a continuation the next day. They open the scene where the girl ended up killing Jason Part 3 with an axe. They take his body to a morgue. Now this film right here is where they really up the gore. The gore really is not only that, you actually hear Jason grunt in this film. He's like,
he is pissed off. He is pissed off.
Yeah. So I really was like, really enjoy that, and you start seeing the decay in this one.
Yeah. And so we get Jason pretty much, his body's in the morgue. He is obviously alive, so he comes back to life, and he's going after first he kills that dude in the he's watching that weird video.
This dude, video. Alright, it's like 80s films. They did a lot of like morgue scenes in 80 slasher films.
Halloween 2.
Where like this guy is like into like watching his swimsuit doing dances and stuff. Now there's 2 cuts to this scene. There's actually a shorter version where he just like twists the guy's head, and there's a detailed version where Jason is actually sawing this guy's throat, and it just keeps on going and going, and he's grunting while he's cutting this guy's throat, and he slowly just snaps, and his spine just rips out of the fucking skull, dude. I mean, there's a more detailed version. I've seen it, and that was a really fucking gruesome scene.
I know. I can't believe they cut that out.
Another scene that they go detail in is the guy that was with that's with the girl that he really killed. They have an also regular scene in edit scene in this one where it's really dark. The girl, the other morgue lady, where he was trying to fuck earlier in that film, in the scene. And when he goes and kills her, there's a scene where he just stabs her and she dies. Then there's a more darker, more unrated version where he actually stabs her, and he's sitting there grunting as he's slicing her slowly down her chest into her private.
Damn.
Yeah, and it just blood just like her intestines and all that shit's just fucking spilling. So that's the only thing like that sucks about the whole where you have MPA kind of fuck up. Like you have to buy the unrated version because I trust you. Trust me. When it comes to Friday 13th Part 4 final chapter, get the unrated. It's more detailed, more gruesome, and more grunting.
Oh yeah. So we now get introduced to another series of characters.
These ain't counselors again. Campers.
This one I can say that
this
has good mainstream characters.
This movie, other than Kevin Bacon Part 1, we would not see mainstream actors again until Part 4. We get Corey Feldman, we get Kristen Glover. Yeah, and anybody else?
I can't remember. But those two familiar are the most, well known. Mm-hmm. So you have Corey Feldman playing a brother of the older sister.
He plays the iconic Tommy Jarvis.
And you also got Kristen Glover, who honestly is my favorite character in the movie, where he's playing the guy who's trying to hook up with the girl, and he's kind of shy. And he's like, talking to the dude, he's like, his friend's like, let me type it on my computer. Like, it says
you're a dead fuck. So this movie was actually introducing more comedy than they did in the other previous 3 films.
Yeah.
They actually went with a some comedy scenes in this film. And basically, you know, we get this group that actually is moving in for the weekend, just for a weekend party at a house that is owned by Tommy Jarvis and his mom and his sister, who owns a house, and they live in the property, and they letting them rent it out for the weekend.
Yeah.
And basically, we get these group of kids, you know, slash, you know, people get slashed. But the thing I like about this film is I love the story writing in this film. I loved Corey Feldman's performance, and I loved his character as a guy who loved to make masks.
Yeah, he reminded me of Michael Myers in the Rob Zombie Halloween remake.
Yes. And I do love his detail, and he's a movie guy. So I really enjoy it. Kind of remind me of Randy from Scream 2.
Yeah.
Scream 1. This guy was like that character. That's why I really enjoyed Tommy Jarvis in this film.
Yeah, I really enjoyed his performance as well.
And Corey Feldman did very
and I also good. Actually, honestly, I liked the other characters too. Like
I did like the campers.
Besides
I laughed in the film, and it didn't overdo its comedy, but the comedy was good.
Especially the part where Crispin Glover's dancing with that girl. And trivia note, there was actually that scene where he's dancing. That song was originally supposed to be "Back in Black" by AC/DC.
Oh, okay.
Where he's supposed to be dancing with that girl.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really funny, like how him and his friend were fucking with each other, saying, "Man, yes. I'm gonna try to hook up instead of you."
Yep.
You know?
And then we also, like I said in part 3, we get the barn, which will later be in 2009 remake. We also get another thing iconic in 2009 remake. We get a scene where Hiker's looking for a sister, which would be brought up as the main plot in the remake in 2009.
Yeah.
Where we get the guy, Corey Feldman's sister runs into him on an accident. And then the dude's like, "Oh, your car's broke down. I'll fix it." And he's like, "I'm looking for my sister." We find out the girl who took the arrow in part 2, that was his sister.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, the one where her and the blonde dude in part 2. That girl, the kind of like perm hair.
Yeah.
The girl with the perm hair in part 2, who gets stabbed through the arrow through the chest with her boyfriend on top of her in the hammock.
Yeah, I remember
That's
that.
his sister.
Oh, wow. I forgot about that.
That's his sister. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, 4 is probably one of my most favorites of the series. Like, it ups the brutality a lot better.
Oh, it ups the brutality.
The characters a lot better, more fleshed out this time, and they're funny. And I love how Jason is, like, really pissed off.
Yeah, he's really angry in this one, and they actually go more detail, because almost every kill is really detailed. Like, the girl with the raft was pretty gruesome, where they actually do an extended cut where it actually lasts over a minute. She's sitting there, and then he's just sawing her through the thing, and she's like,
yeah. And then you also have the ending with Jason where
and she's the dude with the dick with the spear.
Yeah.
And the dude's like,
Yeah, and what was cool is that Tom Savini came back to do the effects again.
Oh, the effects were amazing in this film. And then, well, it's kind of hard to talk about the whole story. It's about kids getting slashed again.
And then Jason gets defeated by Tommy Jarvis as a child.
Which, Tommy does a reference from part 2. Instead of being the mom, he shaves himself and be an image of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like,
boy.
Jason! You know, and trying to stop him. Then he slashes him up, everything. And pretty much the movie's over with. Kind of hard to really describe
at the time, that would have been a good ending. You know, actually.
And this was actually a closure because he's actually going nuts. He's just stabbing Jason, just chopping him up. And they wanted you to get the ambiguous ending that Jason actually got chopped up in a million pieces until we figure out they're going to continue on the whole story. And then they just change it up and say, well, you just stabbed him.
Well, another thing, too, that the 4th movie ends on, that you kind of get a little bit of an ambiguous ending, is we're led to believe, because the ends on a shot where it looks at Tommy Jarvis where he went psycho. He's gonna become Jason.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes you wonder, like, okay, that's gonna be weird.
Now this film right here,
we get
my previous films, I get 1, 2, and 3. I gave it 8.0. I'm gonna up the ante on this one. I'm gonna give this one an 8.5 out of 10 because I really enjoyed this film.
I do too. I like it. I'm gonna give it 8.5 out of 10 as well. It's very. I mean, you know. The first 4 Friday the 13th films, take it or leave it, they are very fun slasher films. Because 4 you can still see as for fun, but also a really good dark slasher movie.
Yeah.
You know? And you also get a lot of cool, relatable characters.
Yeah.
So now we
lead to Friday the 13th Part 5,
A New Beginning.
The New Beginning. This is where this film took a few years later, and people thought 1, 2, 3, and 4, that was the end of it. That was officially the end. Well, a guy took a hold of the project, and he made Friday the 13th Part 5 the beginning. So we get into the film where we start off with Tommy Jarvis, which they do bring Corey Feldman. He was actually filming Goonies at the time, and he was nice enough to fly in to take a quick cameo shot of him playing the guy watching them bury Jason out. But that really doesn't lead to anywhere because we'll tell you later on our here in the review, it leads really nowhere because really Jason isn't coming back in this film.
Yeah. So we pretty much get introduced that Tommy.
Now a new guy takes over as Tommy Jarvis, and he's going to this time instead of just camping. This is actually a rehab center that's camp for people who have mental issues. I'll
be honest though, I do like the idea that they're at least questioning Tommy Jarvis's way of psychological approach because it's because he went through a lot of shit when he was a kid.
I do like that. I didn't care for maybe the guy playing him.
Yeah.
Because basically we're getting Tommy Jarvis. He's kind of mute in this film. He really doesn't talk.
Which
the new guy that took over, I didn't really care for him.
I didn't care for him either. He was just very boring. But also, what I like too is that some of the characters they introduced later in the film. Okay, because you have Tommy Jarvis.
I guess you could say that it was cool that they changed the ante and say now it's a mental place.
Yeah. That's
happened to be in Camp Crystal Lake.
So now since they're at the mental ward, you would expect it to be, a different kind of from the title alone, A New Beginning, you're kind of expecting something like maybe Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, where they're doing something different, but still keeping the overall feel of a Friday the 13th film.
Yeah.
So here we have this movie where it's at a mental camp.
It's for kids who went to prison, and I guess they're getting a second chance. It's called second chance.
So we get introduced to some of these characters, which are very kind of forgettable because I really didn't care for some of them.
I didn't care for them that much.
You have this fat guy going up to this dude, and he's offering him a chocolate bar. And
he's pretty much a retard.
Yeah,
he's kind of retarded.
The dude gets killed by him just because he didn't.
Well, I guess you could say you can kind of like the part because the guy you're at a mental place. One of the guys they end up still having is not coping with the place very well. He ends up killing the guy that's fucking with him. He thinks the guy's picking on, messing with him. He's not, but unfortunately, he's a kind, sweet guy that he ends up killing. The guy was just being nice. He's trying to help people. He wants to be a good person, a good Samaritan. Well, he fucked with the wrong guy. The guy ended up chopping him in pieces. We get to the part where we get paramedics picking up the body.
Yeah. And here's a weird red herring new. We're led to believe that supposedly the guy that had killed him is supposedly going to be the killer throughout the movie. But, and this is where I called it all of a sudden.
Alright. We knew that, there's a lot of people at the end of the film who's going to think that it's still a Jason film. Jason's going to come out at the end for some reason. They start going back to the old ante where you don't see the killer again because you don't see much of Jason in this film at all.
Right.
You get that
point of view.
This movie was really cleansing because they really didn't have much blood in this film.
The MPA butchered the shit out of this movie. Other than probably that scene where he's probably doing that bench pressing that dude with the coats
and the decapitation.
Yeah. That's
really the only blood.
All the rest of them, when you see people get killed, you can only see their reactions. You don't see what the actual fucking blood looks like.
Yeah, and then now that you know, you can really catch on to this film that the paramedic is the fucking killer.
Yeah,
the guy is
yeah, they do this shot of him,
and they actually spend a minute on this fucking dude. I'm like, well, that's fucking Jason.
Yeah.
If you're not gonna bring Jason,
they pan on this shot where he's literally looking at the body and he goes. Yeah, the music plays.
Which I really thought the score in this film was really poorly done too, because that it was really just fucking stupid, man.
Yeah,
that score was really bad. So you get this whole film, really, he's just slashing them left and right. You think it's a Jason movie. Then you find out that it's not fucking Jason. You get the paramedic. I don't really want to spend too much on this film. this film really was just straightforward, just one awful fucking garbage piece of shit.
It was, yeah. And the only character that I did kind of like, but only because the actor involved, was Miguel Nunez as the kind of the brother, the older brother of the main kid.
I didn't like the redneck family. They were funny. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, they were funny.
They were funny, and I did like the black guy. Like, he came to visit his brother. Yeah, he played in Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
And Scooby-Doo, one of the Scooby-Doo series.
The first one.
Yeah, the first one. And he made me laugh, and the part where he said, ooh, baby, ooh, baby. Yeah. And you do get the 80s feel with this film, because he's got the whole Michael Jackson feel to him.
He's wearing the kind of suit. The jacket like him.
And he's got the perm like him and everything. So I did like the whole thriller look to him. But this movie just was like a pointless fucking film. This should never have been made. I don't know who attempted. And I know that they were trying to thinking, oh, well, let's just try to be the Season of the Witch type film.
Well, the only difference, and this is where I defend Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, is that unlike Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, this one
actually trying to do somebody to play Jason.
Yeah, it's because at least Season of the Witch did its own thing.
This movie, they basically go, the paramedic is Jason, and the guy, reason why he dressed up as Jason, so he wouldn't get caught, and people would just blame it on Jason.
Yeah.
That was the whole, really, the ending. This film was really fucking bad, and I'm going to say it right now, since we're on it, it is my most least favorite of the whole franchise. I really hated this movie. I'm going to go a 2 out of 10 in this film.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 2, probably a 2 out of 2.5, only because there's like a little bit of things I liked a little more.
Yeah.
But like a couple of deaths were fun, but also you had like some of the overall like concept I thought was alright. So I give it a little bit of credit for like 2.5.
Alright, well, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. So you hear and you see this film, you get the first one is 8 out of 10 for me, second one 8 out of 10, third one 8 out of 10, the fourth one 8.5 out of 10. These are good back-to-back slasher films. Were good series, and they're all like back-to-back. Then you get this really fucking bad, shitty movie that is just drops a fucking 2 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. So now we get to both of our most favorite ones.
And now here we are. My absolute most favorite Jason movie. Out of this one, the remake, all of them combined. This is my absolute favorite. Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives.
Yes. So now we get it to where Tom Matthews takes over, which is another Return of the Living Dead actor from the first one.
Which second. He was amazing, Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah,
I love him as Tommy
Jarvis. We get
Jarvis.
him and his friend going to bury trying to finally end Jason once and for all. Okay.
Which, actually, fair enough, believe it or not, even though we hate 5, they actually ignore 5 in this one.
They kind of do, but in the beginning they do say that the mental institution. His friend says, "You know, the mental ward's going to be mad at us for us leaving, right?"
Yeah, so they sneak out of that mental camp.
That's what I'm saying.
So yeah, but which makes you quite a question. After all of the kills, you think they'd stay open?
No,
they wouldn't.
Not to mention, it wouldn't make sense because, first of all,
but you can't put 6 on that. You blame it out in 5.
Yeah,
because 5 was just fucking bad.
Yeah.
So here we are. Jason, he pretty much is, this is our introductory of Jason being a zombie.
Yeah. Where he's a lot slower.
He's a lot slower. Well, he's not really slow. It's just, now he's a monster. He's an official monster.
Well, yeah, because at least in the first 4 films, he was actually able to run. He was able to...
Well, he was still human. Even 4, he was decaying. He was half human, half monster. This one is the official Jason's been dead for many years. Alright, he's now a zombie.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, Tommy, in the middle process of freaking out, and we get the scenes from part 4 where he's hearing as, die from Corey Feldman, and then that's where he freaks out, and he stabs Jason in the heart, lightning strikes, and it ends up bringing Jason back.
Yeah, which is probably one of the most, like, favorite scenes is where he rips that dude's heart out.
Oh, that was detailed.
Detailed, too.
Oh,
where
God,
he rips it out, and it's just fucking brutal.
Oh, it's brutal, yeah.
My favorite part also in the movie is when he puts his mask on from behind, he does that cold James Bond thing where
they do the James Bond.
He slashes the
eyeball.
screen.
Yeah.
Where it does a zoom in on his eyeball, and he's slashing the screen like James Bond.
Yep.
Which is
so
cool.
then you get these group of campers, and this one is actually the first introduction of bringing children. These camp counselors are actually going to be, instead of teenagers, they're watching over children.
Which is like an actual camp. So
Yeah.
this is what also makes me like it a lot more, is that they're actually making it a lot more, you can buy them doing an actual camp.
Yes.
You know? So you have them introducing these new group of characters, which I liked every single one of them. Even
I loved everybody that played in this film. This one is actually where they actually bring comedy in this film. There was some comedy in the other films, but they actually they want to be funny in this film.
Basically, what you have with 6, this is the equivalent of them being self-aware. They were going meta. It's like a pre-Scream era that they were doing.
It is. It's meta. Yeah, it's really meta. And so you get Tommy Jarvis. He's in jail, and he gets out. They let him out, and he gets arrested again. He gets broke out.
Because the sheriff thinks that he was believed to be the murderer of the guy, the things that were happening.
So basically, half of the campers start going missing, and people start showing up dead, and they're thinking that Tommy Jarvis is out to portray his Jason. They think he's the Jason guy, which I guess you could say that helps 5 a little bit, because 5, you get the reference of him holding the mask. So you kind of think, all right, maybe, could you be twisting it and saying that Tommy is?
Yeah.
I do love the whole,
Yeah, you could argue that perhaps he's probably making it up as it goes along.
And he's just seeing it, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was fun to think that, but it was still a Jason film. And
another thing I like too is, it was cool seeing an early appearance of Tony Goldwyn in the very beginning, where him and his girlfriend are in their car, and they approach Jason.
Yeah.
And there's a funny line where she's like, I think we should turn back. It's like, why? Because I've seen enough horror movies where a guy in a mask is never friendly.
It's metaphor for, like, Scream. It's making fun of, like, movies they've seen and saying that the guy's wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yeah, which is cool, because I like the fact, I like that writing they did.
I do love the score, and I do love the darkness of this film.
It is. Like, the opening shot with the trees, where it's all, like, very atmospheric with the fog.
And it makes it really dark woods. I love Jason movies with dark woods.
Yeah.
It shows the woods, it's atmospheric as hell, and I do love that. And they capture the lake very well looking, and it's pretty brown and cold. And this is a fall Jason movie.
Yeah, it actually shot in the fall.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed that, and I love the soundtrack with Alice Cooper.
He's back, the man behind the mask.
And Teenage Frankenstein.
Yeah, I love that soundtrack.
So it had a badass, and it's memorable. It's still brought on to this day. And, the overall, man, and then, you get to where Tommy Jarvis has got to pretty much put Jason, he thinks that putting him back in his grave, which is putting him back underwater and drowning him again.
Yeah.
And then tying him down, and that would end Jason once and for all.
Yeah, you also, and also the kills they have in the film are pretty some brutal. Of them, they're brutal, but some of them could have been better, but I liked what they did.
Yeah, I do like what they did. I do gotta say also, I do like, and you have to get the unrated. It's kind of hard to find the unrated version, but there's actually a detail part where he's actually breaking that cop's back. Yeah. And there's a longer cut where he's actually the bones slowly snapping out of his skin. Yeah. And he's just crunch, 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 and just the dude's sitting there. Yeah. Yeah, dude. But that scene is actually really hard to find.
Yeah, I need to look that one up.
I actually found it on YouTube, and I was like, damn.
But overall, I really love this.
This is my favorite Jason movie. I'm going to give this like a 9 out of 10 for me.
It's definitely a 9.5 out of 10 for me. Yeah. It has little to no flaws.
It really does.
It's what you consider a true Friday the 13th film.
I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10, because this movie is little to no flaws. It's my favorite Jason film, 9.5 out of 10 for me. It's an A+ almost. Absolutely. Pretty much for me.
We'll be back here with part 2 of our retrospective after we take a break. We'll see you guys. And now we're going to be moving on to our 7th movie on the list.
Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood.
Yes. Which, after coming off the success of 6, the writers decided to do something a little different this time.
Different, but yet the same, because you do get the same score a little bit with it, and this is actually Kane Hodder's opening debut as Jason, which he would become the icon of Jason Voorhees.
And it's also worthwhile that this film, we'll get more into detail about it, but it contains the most cuts of a Friday the 13th film.
Okay, yeah, this film right here, this was probably one of the most butchered MPA butchered film. I do not know the backstory of why. I really think that maybe, was it the director that has bad blood into the MPA? Because the MPA allowed some very gory shots in part, 4, and you had some 6, and you had some in part 3. But they really fucking had zero tolerance for this fucking film. Because trust me, there's 35 minutes worth of gore in a pre-cut that they would not, still to this day, they refuse to put on a unrated disc.
Though you can find them on YouTube and other sources.
YouTube, you can find them, but you can't find them on an unrated cut yet. The MPAA, I believe, has got it out for the director of this film.
Yeah.
So he pissed somebody off.
So we have this one, which opens with
a very controversial scene.
It has a very inconsistent continuity problem because the film opens with a young girl. She's having problems with her dad, and so she suffers from telekinesis,
kind of like Carrie.
Yeah. So basically, we can just call her Carrie.
It's like Carrie. And she looks like Carol Ann.
Yeah. So
from Poltergeist.
Carol Ann decides to kill her dad after, getting mad and everything. But the weirdest thing I found a problem with this is that Jason is still from the last movie, he was chained up in the last movie.
And he's still chained up. The thing I have a problem with this opening is the cabins are not there from part 6. Mm-hmm. It's now 2 houses. A house that these group of kids will eventually rent again, and then the ones that this family owns as a family house where she kills her dad at. And then we get this unlike that little dock that they had in part 6, we have this dock that's really tall.
Yeah.
Which, I was like, okay, where was that at? But this is referencing also time continuity in this one because the girl is 6 in that scene, or 7, and then they go 18 years later where she's 18.
Yeah, or like 10, 11 years.
It's it's about actually 12 years, and she's 18. So it's all right. So you're referencing that part 6 is 20 years fucking later.
So you could assume that pretty much we're led to see that part 7 takes place in like the late 90s, early 2000s,
in a 87 flick.
Yeah,
yeah.
So we get introduced to a new set of characters, which, like the other movies, they go to Camp Crystal Lake, which I believe, was this one supposed to be renamed Crystal Lake back again, or was it still called something else?
It really didn't reference that it was Crystal Lake at all.
Because the last one was green.
Yeah, they actually kind of like reference it. They don't even reference it a name. They just said it's like a family lake. I'm like, okay, so now a family gets to own the whole entire lake? There's a lot of continuity issues with this. This movie is a very continuity-issued movie, but that was actually common with 80s flicks. 80s flicks never went with story. They just thought about budgeting and making the money and just keep on continuation of a series.
Yeah.
They didn't care about previous films, really.
So we get now introduced to these characters that show up at this double house, and they decide to throw a birthday party for one of their friends. Okay, fair enough. We get pretty much your typical, characters. You get like the nerdy guy, the token, African American. You get like the jock. You get
you very diverse.
Diverse, which is common in Friday the 13th. So pretty much your standard, typical teenagers. Yeah. And so, what I found kind of weird was Jason somehow gets how did he get resurrected in this?
This one, the girl did the Carrie thing. She gets pissed off at her doctor, and this really was a really just pointless bring back. This was another thing I had a little issue with. She brought him back by using her telekinesis. She goes out there thinking, okay, I want my dad back. Well, okay, never mind. I guess you can say it's doable. She's thinking she's resurrecting her dad from the grave, but little does she know, she actually brought Jason back. The chains break and he comes up to the surface. Now, before we get into more details of the story, I do give this movie a big props because this Jason was fucking scary.
He was. I love Kane Hodder as Jason.
Oh my god, we get a buff fucking Jason,
and he's all like skinned.
Oh, dude, his mask shows damage, which the other previous films that kind of bothered me. They never showed damage really, but this film really showed the damage.
Wasn't this the same mask from 4, where it's got like the carve on the?
It does, and this is why 7 was praised. Instead of just saying that he got a new mask, they actually decided to keep 4, 6, and 7 consistent.
Yeah.
And in the damage of the mask. So we get this mask that's really fucking damaged, and we get to see Jason's spine. And I do love the whole quiet where he's... And you hear him stomping like a fucking giant.
Yeah.
He is creepy.
You know what he kind of reminded me of? He's kind of the way that his look does, like his look... alone, it looks like the Toxic Avenger.
Yeah, I do think that it's tied for my favorite famous look.
Yeah,
it is my favorites. And believe it or not, even if what we graded as, it is actually his iconic look. Because unlike Kane Hodder, who is the iconic Jason, this look is actually the iconic look of Jason.
It is.
It's the most favorable rated look in all his films.
Yeah, so now we get it to where Jason is going after these teenagers again, and we're getting some really brutal... For those of you who have seen the longer version of the Deaths, we're seeing some, like, brutal-ass shit that he does. Especially, there's a scene where he literally takes a girl, and he starts slamming her, like, 30 times with a sleeping bag.
And then the blood actually soaks the sleeping bag. Like we said at the beginning of talk about this retrospect of Part 7... They actually, MPAA, had a vendetta from this director. I don't know if the director fucked the dude's wife, one of the MPAA's wives. This guy, said, no, I don't care if 4 was gory or... We are making sure we're going to butcher this fucking film. This movie is going to be the most bloodless film. I don't care. This dude fucked my wife. I'm just going to throw it out there. I think the dude fucked one of the MPAA's wife. Because I've never seen somebody that wanted this director's throat. He pissed somebody off in Hollywood. He did. Don't tell me he didn't. Tell me how the other ones can be somewhat gory. This film has to be bloodless. Now, we're going to judge it bloodless, but we're also going to talk about what we've seen, because there is a cut. Unfortunately, we're still waiting it to go on DVD and Blu-ray, but unfortunately, till this day, they're refusing to put it on the Blu-ray or DVD.
Yeah.
They want us to find it on... You have to find it on YouTube. You can look it up, and there's actually 30 minutes of footage. I mean, it's hard to find it. It's really hard to find on YouTube. But there's scenes like the part where the black dude gets his fucking face smashed. There's a scene where the guy Jason is actually smashing the dude's head slowly until he turns it into a flatter in a paper. And you see the skull coming out of the guy's skin, his nose.
Man.
I was like, damn! And you see his eyeballs, guts, and his brains pouring out of his fucking head.
Damn.
But they won't show that in the one that we all see. Because... Like I said, I think the director fucked the MPAA's wife.
Yeah. So now we get it to where pretty much everyone gets picked off one by one, and, you have your share amount of nudity and them doing some...
You get your typical slasher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but here's the highlight of the film for me that really really does it justice.
We get a Carrie
versus Jason fight where Tina, the main girl, is, fucking with Jason by using her powers against him.
And this thing had a more creepier...
Yeah.
This had the most creepiest noise, and it also had a good score, too.
Trivia note, at the very beginning, we meant to talk about this at the very beginning, the guy who played Crazy Ralph in the first 2 movies, he actually narrates the beginning of the 7th film.
Yeah.
Because it shows clips from the previous movies and how nobody could stop
Jason's out there!
No. Yeah, he's like, Jason... Yeah. Many have tried to kill Jason.
I didn't know that was actually
that was him.
Ralph.
Yeah, but he's doing a deeper voice.
Damn, does sound like him now. No,
but anyway, we get a cool badass fight with Jason and Carrie, where she fucks Jason up.
Oh god, it's actually a pretty full fight, and then we actually get Jason unmasked, where it splits in half, and it's finally gone.
And he looks.
Oh my god! Talk about, dude. I'm gonna tell you right now. I will talk about 9 later, and it's unfortunately it was unused a lot in the 9th one, but 7th one was the most iconic. It is me. I loved his look.
I do too.
Oh my god, it was amazing. Kane Hodder's big. I always thought Jason should be big. like I said, 6 is my 9.5 out of 10. It's my favorite Jason movie out of the whole series. The only thing that I did take points off in 6, Jason was quite smaller in that film compared to his body in 7. I just wish that maybe if Kane Hodder would have done 6, you talk about a 10 out of 10 film.
Yeah, it would have been awesome.
If Jason looked like he did in 7 and put it in 6, that movie would have been a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, but I can see what they're doing because 7 is trying to take itself a lot more darker. 6 was trying to be a little
fun,
a little bit more fun.
And like I said, 6 is my ultimate favorite. It's 9.5 out of 10 on that one. So here we go. We get Carrie fight. And then we really get this really ending I didn't really care for.
That's what I was going to get to. Because they have the ending where Jason is finally fucking almost dead. And all of a sudden, when he's about to attack Tina, her deceased father comes back as a zombie and takes Jason with him. I'm like, okay, that's fucking a cop-out right there.
And he's not even fucking decayed or anything. The dude looks like he's fucking got perfect skin.
Yeah.
Like, so word reference that you died when your kid was 6. She's 18 now, or 19 or 20. And you have not decayed?
Yeah.
And let alone that I didn't even care for him at all to even kill Jason. They actually wanted Jason exploding in the house. So that director is to blame on that part, because he actually thought it was clever to do that. And it was not clever.
No,
and let alone, Jason didn't even... You're telling me that Jason survived all that gruesome blowing up and all that other shit, and the guy just grabbing Jason by the ankles and taking him down under the water with him?
No, I can't buy that.
Yeah, especially whenever all he does is take him out, but part 8, he has all that shit on him, like, alright, this is where, alright, 7, I like it and everything, I like a lot of stuff, it's one of the very most controversial film out of the whole series, it's the most controversy one, but there's still likability in it, because I love Kane Hodder, I love the look, I love the score, I love the Carrie thing. But this film also has it had a horrible ending, and the continuity was really fucking destroyed in this film.
Yeah, so if I was to rank it, I would probably give it I'm the same way if you, like, I had some issues with some of the characters. There was, like, some characters that really...
I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 as well. It's
probably one of the few films I will give a 7 out of 10 that fuck the continuity up.
Yeah.
Because I'm really big on continuity, and I'm big on story and how it ends. And this movie, this is one of the few films that can actually butcher those roles, and I still like the film still. It's a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Usually any other film, I'll probably give you like a 4 or 3, but I have a soft spot for Part 7.
Yeah, me too. So now we get to
oh my god,
absolute worst of the franchise.
I did 5 was my absolute worst.
Well, my absolute worst is the next one we're talking about.
This one is my second the worst, but it's actually tied with 5. This movie was fucking painful to fucking go through.
Friday the 13th.
I find myself kind of skipping this one. Friday the 13th, Part 8.
Jason Takes Manhattan. Which, okay, little backstory. So, Paramount decided to do something new for Jason, where instead of doing Crystal Lake, hey, let's actually put him in New York. And here's what I think would have been better as a concept. Okay. Paramount, going off the success of 7, decided that if they wanted to do 8, they really wanted to shoot a lot of scenes in New York and actually do a big budget for it.
Yeah.
Problem was, because New York is very expensive, there's only 3 shots in the whole fucking movie.
This movie actually takes Vancouver.
In Vancouver, Canada.
You can tell because I've been up there, and those evergreens and that water, and you can tell, and this is where the most controversial scene is. So, we get Jason, he's still in that same spot he was taken down by the dad in Part 7.
Yeah.
But, when he gets up on that boat, and how small is the world when Jason finds his mask on a boat out of nowhere? Another mask that looks identical.
That's what I'm saying.
The other films.
What are the fucking odds you can find
the same
exact mask?
But it's new now.
Yeah, and it looks cleaner too. I'm like, what the fuck? That doesn't even look like a Jason mask.
Well, because it wasn't Jason's. Because this guy, ironically, had the same mask.
No, I'm sorry. It wasn't clean. It was all yellow looking. I was like, what the fuck? You look like a banana.
To be fair, I guess they did say that they did kind of fix that continuity up, where they said that the boyfriend knew about the Jason history, and he just brought it to scare his wife when he did do that.
Fair enough,
but it still ain't
that
doable.
mask was just so weird.
It was too round.
That fucking mask was too yellow looking. I was like, What the fuck? That does not
No,
even look
my
like
thing
Jason.
was it was too circle. It was too circle. And, well, anyways, this is my problem. This movie bothered me this most right here. I'll get the other parts. So, Jason comes up, and he gets on this ship now. So, okay, he kills those people at the beginning, and he takes the mask. That was and it looked like Camp Crystal Lake. And unlike 7, they actually bring those cabins back from Part 6 to make it look like it's leaving from Part 6. So I think that's cool. That was clever. I'm glad you guys did that, because 7 did. Like, where do the cabins go? They sprout legs and walk the fuck off and then built houses? Well, they bring the cabins back in this one. It starts looking at, like, the Camp Crystal Lake. But tell me how Camp Crystal Lake, keyword lake, and they're in the fucking ocean.
Yeah,
in 8.
Because, okay, we have a series of characters...
Ships are on oceans.
We get us introduced to a series of characters that are going on a trip, on a cruise, to go to New York. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. It's kind of cool concept.
Yeah, but the whole ship thing in connection to Camp Crystal Lake...
Which doesn't make sense, because they're literally on this fucking ship that is not even that far off from Crystal Lake.
And we're to say that a lake has connections to the ocean, where he was able to swim in the ocean. Yeah. So now Jason is drowning in the ocean. This movie was not supposed to be anywhere near an ocean.
Yeah, it was supposed to be just
the whole
a regular
franchise.
Fucking lake.
It's a lake. So now we have to say he's got front row seats to a fucking beach now. So this movie really, and obviously, even if it is to say that it's a lake that you're taking to, lakes don't lead anywhere. That's why they're called lakes. Rivers lead to towns and cities.
Yeah.
Jason gets on a river, but this movie is the whole franchise is based off a lake. Lakes don't lead anywhere. Lakes are big giant ponds.
They are.
So you can't tell me that you took a lake on a ship. First of all, ships can't fit in lakes because lakes are really small.
Exactly.
This was an actual ship. I mean, you might as well say it was the mini Titanic. Obviously, that ain't gonna fit in the fucking lake. And if it did, it would reach probably one end of the lake to the other end of the lake in fucking 40 seconds. It's so damn big. So now we know it's the fucking ocean. Because this is the shot right here that leads to believe it is the ocean. Where they're coming into the Statue of Liberty. That is in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
That is the ocean. And the way they're going to the way that they're going towards the fucking Statue of Liberty is another continuity issue. They're acting like they're coming from England.
Yeah, that doesn't make no fucking sense.
You wouldn't come from sideways like that. But if you're going frontwards to it, you're coming from England or Europe.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man. Not to mention, if you travel like I've done for a living, I can tell you right now that was the Pacific Northwest. British Columbia, Vancouver.
Yeah.
I could tell, because the whole tall evergreens with the cold ocean, I mean, come on now. They don't even look like fucking New Jersey. Where Camp Crystal Lake is supposedly resides.
Because, okay, it's been known that Camp Crystal Lake is supposed to be considered the New Jersey, based off of, it's supposed to be based off of New Jersey, because the first film was.
But it's not supposed to be right next to the lake. Yes, New Jersey resides at the inner coast. It's on the Atlantic. But the way the camp is supposed to be inner, very far away. So we're to assume that Jason maybe got out of the lake, came back to life from this guy, and he walked 200 miles, maybe 100 miles to the ocean. So we're to assume that he passed Jersey Shore, where we see the Jersey Shore cast at, to get there. I've been up there, and it's fucking really tropical. So it doesn't look like it's evergreens up there. It's very tropical.
Yeah, but anyway, we get now some of the really, really pathetic deaths that we get. Mm-hmm. There's actually a scene. Okay,
the only thing I liked about this film is I did like the whole '80s retrospective look to it.
Yeah,
and the whole rock with the girl. I do like the whole Ozzy theme it's going for. But other than that, like you said, the deaths were really fucking boring.
Like, some of the characters are just really just... I couldn't really stand them. I just wanted them to be picked off. They were fucking forgettable.
I wanted this movie to fucking end. It was so painful.
Yeah. So now we get... What I was going to say was, we got one of the most obviously fake deaths that I've seen, where there's a part where the captain gets killed, and you can tell...
Oh, the knife don't even touch the stone?
The knife don't even touch the stone, where he's just going...
just slowly, like, going backwards. I'm like, okay. Alright, if you're gonna slow motion a death, touch the fucking skin, because I seen that goddamn thing an inch away. And then when the guy's neck is splitting back, it looked like he barely got him a cut. I've had bigger cuts in my throat than that. And the guy just fucking dies. Like, dude, he didn't even cut your jugular. You're alive, motherfucker. He didn't even go through your windpipe. Because when he's going backwards, it's not like it's ripping. It's just like one little fucking cut. The goddamn, it was like a centimeter cut. It's like, I've had cuts like this big. The fucking cut started splitting right here, and that was it. Yeah. Oh my god, talk about a horrible death. Alright, so, this movie's already 3/4 already done. We're still on the ship. Why is it called Jason Takes Manhattan?
Yeah, because what's weird is that this whole movie takes place throughout a whole hour. It takes place on a fucking ship. I'm like,
give or take, this movie's an hour and 28 minutes long. So that means 75% of this movie is on the ship.
Yeah. So once he's on the ship, I mean, yeah, you get one cool kill, which I liked, was the part where he's in the sauna, and he takes that dude's head and he puts in the fucking rock. I like that death.
No, he didn't take the dude's head. What he did was he took the rock and went through the guy's chest.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
And it went through his chest.
Yeah, but he did that one, which I liked. And also, I like the part where he's in the club and he kills that one Asian girl.
Oh, and he slowly chokes her and you hear her break it. Her bones are breaking in her throat. Yeah, I guess that was cool.
But other than that, yeah, this is my biggest bitch right here. Okay, so we finally get to Manhattan.
Well, first of all, Jason, I'm sorry, but this isn't just your typical lake. Oceans are thousands and thousands of feet. Jason walked through there like he knew the area.
Yeah, well, this is what I was going to say. With Jason coming here, it's almost...
Well, let's go back and say, yeah, he ends up destroying the ship. The ship ends up sinking.
Which is really weird because there was 200 people...
It kind of reminded me of Titanic.
Yeah, there were 200 people on the ship, so he does kill, the rest of them on the ship, supposedly.
No, what it is there's 200 people on the ship. We're to assume that the rest were sleeping, supposedly, and they drowned when they sunk.
That's what I'm saying. He pretty much led them to... the body count was mostly the people on the ship that died. So they died.
To Manhattan.
And when we get to Manhattan... and this
we get the reference of his mask where he sees the hockey.
Yeah, I've seen that,
New York Rangers, yeah.
So we get it to where he kills these guys that are coming after them that are like burglars or muggers and stuff.
Muggers, yeah. These people run into muggers in New York. And you get the New York feel with a lot of scenes. It's just...
Okay, here's what I gotta bitch real quick.
He's taking Manhattan, but yet he's walking around so many civilians, though.
That's what I'm saying. Here's my biggest bitch. They call this movie Jason Takes Manhattan.
He doesn't
kill anybody. He walks around and then he sees a group of guys he just kicks their
I'm sorry, but I don't think he's going to be able to take Manhattan. There's 12 million people who live in Manhattan.
I know, but
Can you imagine all those people beating his ass? There's going to be a lot of 12 million people. Somebody's going to bound to show up with a fucking tank and end his ass.
But what I'm saying is they ruined that concept because
I would have never done Manhattan to begin with because he isn't going to ever take Manhattan.
But that's my thing. I wish they could have done Manhattan because for one, you have Jason in Manhattan where he's unstoppable.
You could not call it somebody. You couldn't say takes because he doesn't take it. You could say Jason in Manhattan, where it shows instead of the woods, you could have him in the city the whole movie instead of a woods, which I would like that a lot better. He's in a city form now, but he doesn't take it. It's called Jason in Manhattan because he's never going to take it.
But it was a waste of opportunity because he's clearly walking by people that he doesn't even kill.
I did like that part where he kicks the dude's radio, and the dude's like, "Hey, you're dead meat, slime face."
And then he takes his mask off.
The wiggers, and he's like, and they're like, "Oh fuck, it's cool, man, it's cool." And they run, and he's like, "Okay."
There is one funny part I liked where he goes into the diner
and
he throws that dude. You know who that dude was? That was actually the guy who played Jason in Freddy vs. Jason.
I know, I heard.
Yeah.
But he's like, "Alright, you're out of here, motherfucker." Boom! And the dude breaks his fucking shit and throws him against the glass.
Yeah.
And then he looks at that girl, he don't even kill her. So you're killing Jason's continuity that he kills anybody in his path. Now he's just like, I could have got you, you're by yourself, there ain't nobody in sight. But you let her live?
That's what I'm saying. This is fucking stupid that Jason would...
Jason's letting people live now?
That's what I'm saying. The fact that he's in New York alone makes you wonder, okay, why is he letting everybody live? He's supposed to be chopping motherfuckers while he's walking around.
It kills it because in 9, which we'll get into the story later, in Freddy vs. Jason, he does do that. He kills everybody who's in his path.
That's what I'm saying.
So, 8 fucks that up with the, I'm going to let 8/4 of these people live.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to fucking live.
Okay. Okay, and here's another thing. When we get to the ending...
Oh, no. Here's where the continuity is really fucked up. So we get this backstory with her dad at Camp Crystal Lake with the girl.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And the girl can't swim. And they get reference of she's scared of drowning like Jason did. And you get scenes where Jason's actually pulling her down throughout all the years. So you're basically going before part 1. Or maybe, before part 1. Because this is when Jason's like 8 years old or 9 years old when he's already drowned. And he's actually pulling her as a little girl. So, there's a problem there. Jason should be about 40 fucking years old, 30 something. So I believe this 22-year-old girl is the same age as Jason. Because when he's pulling her down, they look the same age.
Yeah. That's another thing.
That's a continuity issue, right?
Well, not that it matters, because continuity fucked itself over in the 7th movie, where we're supposed to believe it's supposed to be 10 years later, where Jason's like, what? He'd be like
basically, after 6, even though I hate 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 should have been the only films in this series. Because, I'm not going to talk about 5, we already did that. But, I think 7 is where the continuity starts fucking up, and 7, 8, 9, 10, all of them just start doing its own standalone film.
Yeah.
They don't do continuity stories anymore. 7 ruined it, even though I still have soft spot for 7, and then 8 is doing it, and 9 does it, and 10 does it.
Yeah.
They don't do continuities. No.
So, basically it ends with Jason somehow fucking turning human all of a sudden when he
turns into a fucking kid. And I actually looked up this, and they actually... I still don't buy it, even though they explained it.
He looks like a regular kid.
Let me explain it. You did. I read it. It makes me feel a little bit better, but it still ain't. No, it still isn't doable for me. So we get the ending where Jason's the fucking boy, and not only that, he's not even deformed. He looks like a normal little kid.
That's what I was just saying. He looks like a regular kid.
He looks like a regular kid. Even if I didn't like the whole fact that he went back in time like he did. Like he did Dr. Brown and fucking went back as a kid. But little did we know that he actually looked like a normal little boy. So he was never deformed. So that kills that part. Yeah. But the thing is they're saying that they're going to go by what's-her-face seen visuals. And just that's not there. It's really not there. Then why would you put it in your fucking film, you dumbass?
Exactly.
If it's not supposed to be there. That's bad, ambiguous ending because we don't fucking... If you're trying to tell us and make us think that, we all didn't believe that it was not there. We actually thought that was really what she saw. So
because for one, we know the image in our head.
Yeah. And first of all, he doesn't look like a normal little boy. He's a bald, deformed... He looked like Sloth from Goonies.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like a fucking normal... Look like Andy from Chucky. That's what that kid looked like. Looked like Andy from Chucky. For the first one. Looked just normal. So, yeah, this movie was fucking horrible. It's a 2 out of 10 for me.
It's a 1 out of 10 for me, or a 1 point... I'll be kind, probably give it a 1.75, only because, a couple of the kills were fun.
I like the 80s
and I like the whole idea with the concept.
The idea could have been done, but it was done very bad.
And I like the
80s film, so I'm going 2 out of 10.
Yeah, but there were still a lot of things that pissed me off, so...
Yeah, this is tied with 5 as my worst film of the franchise. 5 is my actually worst, and then this one is also the worst.
Yeah.
We'll be back here with part 2 of our retrospective after we take a break. We'll see you guys.